So it's 2 o'clock Central Time, so I'd like to go ahead and get started and want to welcome everyone to our webinar, which is focused on BodyViz for education. You're going to really like what you see today and what we're able to offer with our partnership and the impact it will have on your classrooms. So saying that, I wanted to go through, if I can get my screen to advance. There we go. Just go through a few housekeeping things today. I would like everyone to just stay muted. The background noise seems to be distracting at times, and we will use our chat feature for any questions that you might have. So at the end, we do have a question and answer session. And if you have any comments or questions, you can just chat those in, and we will answer those as we go. So again, we're going to ask you just to stay muted, and then we will get those chat questions answered at the end. But stay tuned. We do want to offer something to those that are participating with us today. Today on our 30-minute webinar, we're going to just briefly tell you about Journey Ed and what we do, and then I want to move into BodyViz with an overview, how it is going to impact your anatomy classes, and then we'll finish up with a special offer and answer any questions that you might have. So again, I want to welcome you to our webinar and hope that this proves as beneficial to you as it has with other schools. So just a little bit about Journey Ed. We've been around for well over 25 years. We are in Texas, but we work nationally. We work across America with a sales team, and our goal is to provide the service and to be solution providers for augmented reality and virtual reality. Now, we also deal with Microsoft, Adobe, and other software and other hardware. We are a full service company, but my main focus is to focus on augmented and virtual reality. That's been my background, which I will introduce to you in the next slide. But Journey Ed is a very large company, and we have a presence throughout the United States. So, Scott, can you unmute yourself and tell us just a bit about BodyViz?
Sure, absolutely, Joe. I appreciate you having us on today to share a little bit more about our offerings. BodyViz is a company that, as it says, founded in 2007, started as kind of a preoperative planning surgical tool for surgeons in planning their surgeries on their own time more, and has kind of transformed into a complete visualization software for anatomy education, of course, in very entry-level basic anatomy high school classes all the way up to advanced medical gross anatomy and medical schools. So it's a very scalable solution that we'll talk a little bit more about. Runs on iPads, computers, all the way up into collaborative environments, and I'm excited to share more about it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Scott. Now, I would like to just introduce ourselves. Again, let me get my screen to move forward there. On the right, my name is Joe Hutchison. I am a teacher. I've been in education for well over 23 years. I started out as a classroom teacher and then moved into administration as an assistant principal and then the principal of a school for a number of years. And for the last 5-6 years, I've had the opportunity to participate, to provide professional development around the United States, especially on ed tech. That is my passion. I enjoy that. And that's why I come to you today with Journey Ed as a solution provider and working directly with schools to figure out where they're trying to go and to provide the solution that is going to have the biggest impact on their student success. So that's a little bit about me, and now I'm going to let Scott introduce himself.
Yeah, this is Scott Rodenberg, Director of Business Development for BodyViz. Been with the company coming up on 10 years and just been working with customers globally in building solutions that meet their needs for anatomy education, whether that's a very simple solution for undergraduate anatomy, maybe it's one laptop, all the way up to multi-million-dollar lab solutions at the medical school level and beyond. So again, grateful to be here and looking forward to sharing more.
Fantastic. I think we're going to move, we're going to move straight into BodyViz. So Scott, I'm going to give you control. Sure. And going to let you be the host. And I am giving that to you now, and then we'll let you share your screen.
Okie dokie. I am pulling up my screen now. All righty. So let me get this rolling for us. Okay, so what I want to do first is just kind of share with everybody a little bit more about the BodyViz technology, how it operates, and really what it's all about. BodyViz really kind of boils down to a virtual anatomy lab at your fingertips. And what we've done with BodyViz is get so much more value out of medical imaging data. So a lot of you may have had MRIs or CTs in the past, or maybe have had students that have had MRIs or CT, sports injuries, something like that. BodyViz takes that data, that 2D grayscale imaging data. We've kind of pulled that technology outside of the kind of the typically siloed radiology environment and made it very, very easy and accessible for students. So we've windowed it down from thousands and thousands of features that, from a clinical perspective, makes sense. For a basic anatomy education standpoint, not so much. So we've windowed that down to a core set of functions, and have introduced the Xbox game controller, something a lot of your students will be very familiar with as part of the BodyViz solution, which we'll talk a little bit about here in a minute. So what BodyViz is doing on a very basic level is taking those 2D slices, both MRI and CT, again, some of the imaging that you may be more familiar with, and stacking those and creating this full color, vivid 3D visualization. So again, it's not creating a model, it's not creating an animation, it is real patient anatomy. So your students are looking at essentially what the doctors would be looking at in 3D. So if there's a tumor or an aneurysm or a fracture or something like that, they're going to be able to visualize that in 3D. Again, you know, with BodyViz, we start with very, very basic anatomy, you know, entry level, you know, your A&P 1 and 2 type classes, again, from high schools all the way up. But you have the ability to expand your students' perspective on what anatomy is and what anatomy can really be like, and the variations and different disease and injuries and things like that. So I'll go through a lot of these features within the BodyViz software here in just a minute, but just kind of want to show you a quick visual of what we can offer with BodyViz, and we'll go into more detail here shortly. And so with BodyViz, what we do with the program is set you up with an entire series of these scans. So we have over 750 MRI and CT data sets as part of the BodyViz solution. I mentioned it before, of course, normal anatomy, but also abnormalities, pathology, disease, injury, things like that. So you have this entire arsenal of data sets to use within the program, use within the content, whether it's regional or systemic. Of course, a lot of your classes will be just that standard systemic approach. And we have an entire curriculum that is based around that systems-based approach. And I'll be sharing some of that here in just a minute as well. Know that in addition to our library that of course continues to grow, you know, 750 or so scans now, soon to be 1,000 by the end of the year, you can load your own data sets as well. So that's one of the biggest examples that we see, especially at the high school and undergraduate level, are students bringing in their own data sets and exploring anatomy through their own bodies as well. So, you know, whether they've had a torn ACL, or maybe they had an abdominal scan when they were younger or something like that, you have the ability through the BodyViz technology to load that disc in to the BodyViz laptop, and within a matter of seconds, you're viewing your own anatomy in 3D, which is a really cool experience. So with BodyViz, it's really, again, I mentioned kind of that virtual anatomy lab or virtual cadaver lab. Of course, you know, most times at the high school level, you're not going to have access to a cadaver lab, but with BodyViz, you have the ability to provide access to a really nice virtual cadaver lab and put it in your students' hands. So you have repeated non-destructive dissection, go from skin to muscle to bone to vasculature, all sorts of different tissue levels over and over again, class over class, semester over semester. You can reuse a lot of the same content. And I'll show you, of course, you see in these images here that we have a lot of pre-built annotated structures. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. You can look at anatomical variation. I mentioned it before. Of course, your main focus is very basic anatomy. But if you want to compare male versus female, or if you want to show, you know, one of those abnormalities, such as the image in the right, an abdominal aortic aneurysm on the right versus a relatively normal scan, and show what things can look like In the body, again, this is all real anatomy, real patient data, and you have the ability to do that. So extremely scalable solution with BodyViz. That's part of the beauty of the solution is that you can fit this within any of your existing learning environments, whether that is a general biology lab. We have BodyViz running on laptops, iPads, collaborative spaces. We do full-on virtual anatomy labs. Really just depends on where you want to use it, how you want to use it, number of instructors using it, number of students involved. We work with you in determining what's going to be the best solution, whether, again, that's one laptop or many laptops. It really just depends on what you want to do. So we have that conversation with you, get those details, and kind of work up a proposal for what makes sense based on that. And we do offer BodyViz. Keep in mind, we do offer BodyViz in stereoscopic 3D. So if you've been to a 3D movie, we do have that technology available where you throw on the glasses, the images kind of leap off the screen at you a little bit. Very much an engagement factor for students as well. They throw on the 3D glasses, pick up the Xbox controller, and they're fully engaged in anatomy at that point. In addition to the scalability and the ability to rotate and pan and zoom within BodyViz, these 3D scans, we also have an entire curriculum component with the program. So we've built an entire undergraduate and very basic entry-level systems-based curriculum that can work for both high school but also undergraduate anatomy that essentially through the years we've built up this content library that allows us to do that. So we have the data sets plugged into BodyViz. With those data sets plugged in, we have the ability to create all this content. In addition to the content that we've created, BodyViz is very much a content generation tool for you as well. So if you wanted to take your own screenshots in the program, create your own videos, things like that, you can do that. Know that we have an entire library of those as well. So we have over 8,000 unique images within BodyViz. Think of those as just screenshots that have been taken from the BodyViz software. So, let's say you don't want to use BodyViz interactively in the class one day, but you really think it could maybe supplement a PowerPoint, or you want to create a quiz from an image and pass that out or something like that. You have access to a lot of static data or static content as well. In addition, we built, like I mentioned before, these modules. Now we have 2 versions of each one of these modules, versions that can be used in class that interact with the BodyViz software, as well as versions that can be pushed out online. So through a learning management system, like a Canvas or a Moodle or name some of your common learning management systems, BodyViz will work with that to where you can provide access to students not only in the classroom, but also now review for outside the classroom. And this is kind of just what one of those modules look like. There's different drag and drop functionality. There's test your understanding sections. There's fill in the blank, true, false, multiple choice, a whole range of the kind of common learning and interactions that you would expect within e-learning modules. And I mentioned before that we have in-class versions. That's going to be more of this guided virtual dissection where you're going to open up a file. It's going to give you a list of structures, and it's going to have you rotate that scan and fill in the blanks of those annotations. I'll be pulling up a sample of that here in just a minute. So, that's using the actual BodyViz software in class. And we also have integrated stuff that essentially can be pushed out through your online interface and accessible to students anytime, anywhere, and can be automatically graded and tracked and logged into your grade book, essentially. So again, multiple choice, test your understanding, BodyViz quizzes, things like that. So what I want to do now is essentially pull up an example of those in just a second. Let me get some things out of the way here. Pull this over. So this first one, essentially, we'll look at the in-class version of the skeletal system module, just as a quick example. So this is what it looks like when you open it up. This is just one of many of those modules that we have within BodyViz. I'll show you kind of a peek of what these look like. Essentially, if you go to, this is what you would get on your computer. You have these laid out by system. You click on one. We have this sectioned out into different sections. So you have an overview, axial skeleton, so on down the line. Each one of these is going to be a different module. So this one that I have open right now is simply the overview of the skeletal system. So I click on that. I have the in-class activity as well as the system review that can be pushed out online. That's more questions based. And then I have the BodyViz files that go along with that. And I'll explain that a little bit here as I go along. So It's going to give us an overview, what are we going to cover? How many minutes should this take you? In this case, we're going to go through bone markings, very basic overview of the skeletal system. So as I click through here, it's going to take us through step by step within each activity as far as what I'm going to be doing. And I mentioned before the unique images within BodyViz. Any screenshots that you see within these modules can also be used in whatever materials that you want to use them in. So you have that library of all that data set. So if you say, I don't want to use this module, but I really like this image that would look great in my PowerPoint, you have that accessible to pull out, plug it in, and supplement your existing materials as well. So in this case, this one's tied to bone markings. It's going to allow me to open up this file. I have that file open, so I've clicked on that. It opens up that file, and I'll do kind of a split screen here just to as far as screen real estate, to show us how this works. Give me just a second here. There we go. So what I've loaded up here is that exact scan. So again, I'm opening up the BodyViz software. I've got my Xbox controller in my hands. I can rotate this any different which way. I've got pre-built annotations within here that, if you look at the instructions within this activity, it says click the right trigger button. I'm going to click that, go to free camera, and now I can bumper through a series of different views. And those annotations are going to stick within those views and bounce through and allow me to label those structures. So it says continue to the next slide. I click there. It gives me a list of structures from here. I've been bouncing through my views. I know, where my structures are. I click on here. It's editable. I type in my answer and move on to the next. So as I type in my answers to these, I can mark them off as I go. I can bounce around however I need to. Really just depends on what you want to do. And you can use this as a quiz format. If you want students to take a screenshot, submit that back to you, or email that to you, you can do that. This can simply just be an in-class activity as well. It really just depends on how you want to use this within your classes. And know that for each one of these files that we have the blanks, we also have the answer keys as well. So if I go back to skeletal system, if I go to answer key and click on overview, it's going to have each one of these files labeled too. So I've got that one open here as well. So if I open up that file, you'll get exactly what I'm talking about in having these pre-labeled right within here as well. So this is a file that you would also get with BodyViz that would have those descriptions, have the right answers. If you just wanted to use this, say, in front of the class as more of a lecture type solution, you can do that as well. It really just depends on what you're trying to do. And I'll pull up more about the software here in just a minute. So once I'm done with that, I move on to the next. It's going to take me through another bone markings activity, ask me to open up this file. It's going to go through this, ask me some questions, go down through and label these structures. Again, very similar situation there. Bone marking 3, again, same concept. It's going to reiterate those concepts with your students. And then it's going to go into oftentimes a real world connection and talk us through a scenario. Another BodyViz activity. This case, it opens up this file, has everything in gray, allows me to go down through and label all my flat bones in green, regular bones in blue, red, yellow, and so on. So very interactive activities within here. Now we also have the online versions of these modules, which essentially are more review-based. So this is the same module, but built for online use where you don't have to use the BodyViz software, where it's going to take you through a series of quiz questions. This could even be pre-lab stuff, but it's going to be more, look at this image, answer this question, watch this video, answer this question, and so on. So a lot more questions based here. There's going to be some highlights of certain images. Again, all the images in BodyViz modules are going to be from the BodyViz software and so on. So more drag and drop opportunities. If you get it wrong, ask you to try again, and we're on to the next. So again, due to time today, I'm mostly showing you kind of the functionality of these, not necessarily a whole lot of the content, but want to share with you kind of how these operate. Now I want to pull up the BodyViz software and just show you some of the functionality within the software as well, just real quick, and we'll be off and running here. Bear with me as I pull this up. I'm just going to load a scan. This is what BodyViz looks like right when you load it up. I can scroll down here. I'm going to open up, let's just look at the heart. So I'm going to open up a cardiac CT scan. Click right there. BodyViz, what it's doing now is actively stacking those slices. So again, it's real DICOM data, real MRI, in this case CT data. So it's taking each slice and stacking that to create this visualization. And one housekeeping item I forgot to mention before is that, we are going through the net today. We're going through a Zoom meeting. BodyViz is a high-end visualization program, right? So it requires some decent graphics power to run the software. Very, very fluid on my end. On your end, it may look as though it's chopping along a little bit. Just know when you see it live, it's a much different experience for you. I just want to get rid of that. There we go. So I've just got a raw DICOM data set loaded, cardiac CT. One feature that we can do within BodyViz is a virtual exploration mode, where we can clip in at any different angle that you can imagine within here, and you're not limited to those 2D views anymore, like standard imaging data. You can get any different angle that you want within here very, very easily using that clipping plane mode. And I can create as many as I want. Let's say I want to clip in here, I can save that. Clip down through the chest, I can do that as well. Really just depends on what you're trying to do and the learning objective you're trying to accomplish there. So very simple from a clipping plane standpoint. Another feature that you'll use quite often within BodyViz is tissue types mode. Simple click of a couple buttons on the Xbox controller, and I can rotate through to various tissue levels within BodyViz as well. So here, again, real patient data, we can start seeing some of the plaque deposits on the arch of the aorta and down through. It really just becomes a visual experience for your students, and the 3D spatial relationships coming alive a little bit more. They're used to looking at textbooks or some models in class. This will give them that real patient data aspect as well. And again, you can use any of these in conjunction with each other. So if I wanted to bounce back here, create a clipping plane, I can do that as well. Annotations, again, we looked at this briefly, but it gives you the ability to create your own annotations as well. So at any point here, if you wanted to, let's say, you had a student load in a new scan. Of course, BodyViz isn't going to automatically label all the features within that scan. You have the ability to create these as well. Think of this as kind of a virtual laser pointer within the program that allows you to label what you want. So in this case, I've labeled the arch of aorta. I can type that in, click enter. It's a live file still at this point, so I can pick up the controller, rotate this around. I can actually cycle through a few different views of this, take screenshots along the way. Again, very much a content generation tool. So if I go to tools, take screenshot, I can take as many images as I want, use those in my content. It really just depends on what you're trying to do with that. So just some more features there, the software. Another thing that I want to pull up, just talking about scalability, would be our iPad solution. So iPad, do keep in mind BodyViz is available as an app on the iPad. As an instructor, you have complete control over what gets sent out to the iPad. So you have our entire scan library. Let's say you just want to send scans of the digestive system out to the iPad. You can do that. Or if it's more head and neck, you can do that. So week to week, you can change what students access on the iPad through your own sync module. And this is what it looks like. So once you open up the BodyViz app, you have the ability to select whatever scan you want. I click on one of these. All the scan description here is editable. So if you see all this information, it provides some questions. Think about what vessels pass through the fossa, what nerves pass through the fossa, and so on. So all of that can be changed depending on what you want to look at. If you want to give your students a view of what radiologists are looking at and just kind of give them some idea of that, you have the original 2D data sets to be able to do that as well. So this is what's building that 3D visualization. So you can give them a view of that, go back, click on the image, and it's going to load just like we've loaded in 3D on the PC. It's going to load it in 3D on the iPad. And just like just how you would imagine an iPad working. I know you can't see my fingers on the iPad, but I pinch to zoom in and out. I can window down to various tissue levels if I wanted to. And then, of course, I can clip in here any different way as well. So very, very simple navigation on the iPad. So with that, I want to pass it back to Joe. So I'm going to pause my screen. Joe, I'm going to attempt to get it here. Should be coming your way. And I appreciate everybody taking a look at BodyViz today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Scott. Let me see the other, okay. Hopefully we're in the right place. Tell me what you're seeing.
Yep, I got you. You are back on. I'm seeing about our presenters.
Okay, so let me move forward. Okay, so thank you very much, Scott. That was fantastic. We do want to honor our time and be done in 30 minutes. So we'll jump to some questions and answers. I know that I saw some coming through. And here is one that's come up to us. Can you expand more on how it integrates into an LMS?
Yeah, so BodyViz very simply can work with any LMS that you use. So we have two different versions of each BodyViz module. We have an in-class version that works with BodyViz that's more, driven on the actual BodyViz computers, and then we have online versions of those that will be pushed through the learning management system. We have an entire content and curriculum team with BodyViz that helps you in loading those appropriately. You can actually set point metrics. So if you want certain questions weighted worth more points and things like that, we'll work with you. And a key thing to remember with BodyViz is that it's an implementation, right? So we work with you in making you very successful in doing what you want to do with the program.
Fantastic. Here's one. Do you have any animal scans?
Yes, absolutely, we do. And we're expanding on that side of BodyViz all the time. We have a number of dogs and cats. We actually just did scans of fetal pigs. So we're adding that. We're looking at getting a sheep brain, a cow heart, so some of those common things that you might dissect in your labs, we either have or are adding shortly to BodyViz.
Thank you, Scott. Can you talk about pricing?
Yeah, so with BodyViz being an extremely scalable solution, pricing is extremely scalable as well. So we have entry-level solutions that can start right around $10,000 and scales up from there. It just depends on what solution that you're considering. So we'll have those discussions with you, what number of licenses make sense, what your classes look like, things like that, and build a proposal for you with a few different options within there.
Thank you, Scott. So I'm going to, just for the sake of time, I'm going to go on to our the last slide or so. We are, Journey Ed, we are offering a special offer, and what we're offering now to our participants is an implementation training where we come out, we implement, and we also provide that initial training for you and your staff. So that's typically $2,250, and we're offering that free for those that want to move forward with BodyViz. So we'll be reaching out to our participants today and following up with you. And again, I want to thank Scott for his time helping us out with BodyViz. Again, my name is Joe. Scott's been presenting with us as well. And we just really look forward to working with you in the near future. But seeing that our 30 minutes is up, we'll go ahead and close out here. But I want to thank everyone again for their participation.